Shavua Tov, at the end of Pirkei Avot, the ethical teachings of the rabbis, we are told that everything God created was created for his honor. And we read in this parsha, the beginning of the Torah, the incredible descriptions of the creation of the universe, and are amazed at the scope and mystery of it all. It would seem obvious that the Bible has to begin with this, because this is the basis of our faith, that God is the creator. Yet Rashi, quoting a certain Rabbi Yitzchak, gives a surprising reason for the Torah's inclusion of the creation story. He says that the Torah, by rights, being a book of commandments, should begin with the first commandment to Israel, which is the mitzvah of sanctifying the new moon. Now that only comes up in the book of Exodus, far after our first chapters here in Genesis. So why, asks Rabbi Yitzchak, does the Torah bother telling us all of these creation things? His answer is amazingly prophetic. He says, should the nations of the world accuse Israel of stealing the land of the Canaanites, or if you will, stealing the land of the Palestinians, they should know that I, God, have created the world, and I gave the land to whom I saw fit, and I took it away from them when I saw fit, and gave it to Israel. Wonderful. But wait a second, this is a completely puzzling statement, because first of all, it seems to trivialize the entire creation story to becoming a simple political or national polemic. Is that really the whole point of telling us the details of creation, of the sin of Adam and Eve, and the struggle of Cain and Abel? What could he possibly mean by this? And even if we accept that that's why this story is here, to my ear, the argument isn't so convincing. It sounds a little too much like finders keepers, losers weepers. There must be more to this commentary. Now, along the way as we read, there's another eyebrow-raising curiosity in the account of the creation of man specifically. We all know that God is one. He is not a pantheon. There are no other gods together with him. So when God is ready to create man, he says something astounding. And I quote, "Let us make man in our image." Us. Our. Who is God talking to? He is one. Indeed, pagan heretics can point to this verse with great glee. Now, one simple answer is given by the rabbis of the Talmud, that this verse, with its potentially misleading language, is here to teach us proper manners, that one must consult when somebody is going to do something that affects others. And since man will be ruling over all of creation, God is consulting with creation to make sure they're okay with it. So yes, the rabbis feel that teaching a proper ethical lesson is more important than risking a heretical misinterpretation of the Torah. Let that sink in. But I think there is far more to it than that, because God is indeed speaking to all of creation, to the animals, to the vegetables, to the land itself. The balance of this section of the Torah is to define what man is and what he is not. And all of creation is going to become a partner in the creation of man. And that's why this section will also include man's early failures. A well-known entrepreneurial coach and philosopher named Dan Sullivan has one of my favorite quotes. He says, "There is no such thing as a failure. There is only research and development." Beautiful. So the failures of Adam and Eve, of Cain and Abel, and all of the other ones in the stories in the weeks to come, are examples of man's development and his own creation. They are the research and development. Let's take a look at how everything in creation influences man. And let's start with the animals, because this is an overriding question in this chapter. Is man an animal, or is he something else? What is unique about man? Now I notice that there are actually two cases in the Torah where an animal opens its mouth and speaks to a human. The first is in our chapter, where the serpent persuades Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, which, by the way, is not an apple. The rabbis in the Talmud give us different options as to what it was, but apple is not one of those options. I believe it was doctors who made up the apple story so that they could keep their business, but I digress. The second incident in the Torah where an animal speaks to a human is the donkey of Bilam. But what a difference! Because the serpent spoke to seduce Eve to sin, to bring destruction, whereas the donkey spoke to save Bilam and bring him merit. These animals teach us a crucial lesson about man. It is that our power of speech is very powerful. It can either destroy or save an entire world. The serpent uses destructive speech, and he has no benefit from it. His punishment will be to eat dust, a food that is completely void of any pleasure. So too, someone who uses their speech to destroy will end up destroying themselves. Consider the power of the words used by someone like Hitler, Yamach Shemo v'Zichro, who spoke the world into the bloodiest of wars and ultimately brought about the destruction of his own Germany and his own self. By contrast, consider the words of someone like Winston Churchill, who saved England from the Nazis by the power of his rhetoric and his oratory. The Torah describes man as being nefesh chaya, a living soul. But Onkelos translates that as meaning a ruach mimalala, a speaking spirit. Man's power of speech is very great. We should speak like Bilam's donkey, build people up, give them merit. And not like the serpent, not destroying, not seducing, and not ruining the world. As we see in the next failure, or I should say the next research and development project, when Cain confronts his brother Abel's success. The Torah tells us cryptically that after that sacrifice of Abel was accepted, Cain, quote, said to his brother, then rose up against him in the field and killed him. Said to his brother, then rose up and... Wait, what did he say to his brother? It's not written. It's not there. What gives? I believe that the Torah is telling us that Cain was simply justifying how bad his brother was, and was whipping himself into a frenzy which led to murder. He wasn't talking to Abel at all. He was talking to himself about Abel. As King Solomon tells us, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Indeed, the animals teach us a lot about ourselves. The rabbis in the Talmud claim that if the Torah had never been given, we would have learned laws like the prohibition of stealing and modesty from examples in the animal kingdom. So man can learn from animals, but is he one? That may be the most fundamental question in all of this. That man is absolutely not an animal. And that was also arrived at through the research and development episode of Cain and Abel, because Cain believed that man was an animal. The great Rabbi Yosef Albo in the book Sefer HaIkarim teaches us that this debate was really at the heart of this whole conflict. Cain had brought a sacrifice of some of his fruits, and he failed. It was not accepted by God. Abel brought and killed an animal, and he was successful, and it was accepted by God. Why didn't Cain bring an animal? Because, according to Rabbi Albo, Cain felt that it was immoral. According to Cain, humans are just very high-functioning animals. And therefore, it was immoral to kill animals. Now, when you define human beings as being an animal, you are saying something very dangerous, because you are saying that humans, like animals, do not possess free choice. They are fated by their instincts to succumb to their impulses. And therefore there is nothing that they cannot justify doing by simply saying, I can't help myself, I'm an animal. This is the mindset that we send into the wilderness on Yom Kippur when the temple is in Jerusalem. The scapegoat has all of the sins of Israel on it, and it's sent off a cliff to teach us that blaming our sins on being like animals, being helpless and not responsible, is a fallacy. Humans are not animals. We do have free choice. And that is why Abel brought an animal, because he wanted to show that there is a fundamental difference between man and the animal kingdom. But according to Cain, who sees humans as animals, the fact that Abel killed one and not only got away with it, but was rewarded by God for it, shows that killing animals isn't so bad. So that's exactly what he did. After all, what's the difference between one animal and another, even if the other happens to be your brother? And there is great value in learning lessons from the vegetable kingdom. Did not that fruit of the tree of knowledge transform the very nature of man? Will the Torah not command Israel about the laws of kosher food and kosher animals? The rabbis understood that the laws of kashrut have a spiritual purpose to them, that forbidden foods can influence the human heart in bad ways. And then there is the earth itself, the lands of the earth, the geography of the earth. Where a person lives can have a great impact. After Adam and Eve ate from that forbidden tree, they had to leave the Garden of Eden. It was dangerous for them to remain there in their new state. After Cain slays Abel, he must go into exile and wander the earth. He cannot remain in the same location. It's not appropriate for him anymore. Abram is summoned by God to make the trip west to the Holy Land, where he is told that only there will he achieve fulfillment. It wasn't because the people there were any better, because the ancient Canaanites seemed to be quite sinful. It was the place, it was the location, it was the very nature of the earth there itself. So we see that when God says, "Let us make man," he's not talking to other gods, God forbid. He is describing this incredible process where all of creation will help create man, where man will discover that he is different from animals, that he possesses free choice, that his power of speech is awesome, and that he is very influenced by the physical circumstances of his existence, what he eats, where he lives, and that he must take great care to seek out his proper place, the place and existence that will inspire him to ever greater spirituality and closeness to God. In other words, the land of Israel was created physically and spiritually for the nation of Israel and not for anyone else. All those other nations that lived there were not in their natural habitat. And God would take it from them when spiritually this had to happen, and he would then give it to the people that are spiritually aligned with the essence of our Holy Land. When the sages say, therefore, that everything was created for God's honor, they are telling us something quite profound, that all of creation creates the spiritual shape of mankind, and it is our duty to find our place, to live there, to grow there, to live according to the rules of the Torah, which are spiritual powerhouses, and thus we will fulfill our cosmic purpose in our land. Shavua Tov.